All right, I'm here in the most famous cloud forest in the entire world, synonymous with cloud forest, Monteverde, Costa Rica. And this cloud forest has been highly commercialized for ecotourism. And today I'm gonna try to nature journal here. Yesterday I got soaking wet on my hike. Today I'm gonna see if I can actually fill some pages. I only got one landscape though in yesterday, so let's see how I do. Stay to the end to find out how it goes and if Monteverde might be one of the best nature journaling locations in the world, or is it just a total tourist trap. On Google Maps, it looked like it was an easy walk to this reserve. That's part of why I chose it. An easy walk from my hostel, but it's pretty steep here. The good thing about walking around Monteverde is you could potentially get some good life birds, see some pretty cool animals just along the roads. Oh, what's that? There's something unsettling about when you show up at the reserve and you have to walk, and then you walk to the parking lot and just see the hordes of cars and tourists. Okay, finally. A lot of people don't realize that one of the most dangerous things in the rainforest is falling branches, and you have to be really careful on windy days like today and be really aware of sounds above you. Usually we'll have a warning sound and you can get out of the way. All right, I almost got sucked in with some really hard to see, hard to identify understory birds, but I'm gonna try not to do that right now. I'm gonna just walk a little bit further, and then I'm gonna get out my nature journal and get my metadata down, because my goal is to actually get some nature journaling in today, and it's not completely pouring rain yet, so I shouldn't procrastinate too long. A lot of times in my videos you've seen that I recommend, pulling out your nature journal right away. There's this tendency to wait, and you could end up just walking and walking and walking and never pull out your nature journal, as you might have seen in one of my previous videos. That actually happened to me, and I ended up hiking and not nature journaling at all. So I'm just gonna walk to get a little bit of movement in my legs, get a little bit further away from all the other tour groups, or at least that's my rationalization. I don't know what's going on, but I'm struggling with getting my nature journal out today and getting started. And usually I'm the one giving advice on like, all right, just get it out right away, hurry up and pull it out and all of that. And now I'm the one who, I don't know what it is, but I'm just like either procrastinating or something. And it's so hard, the self-awareness part around it, because sometimes we think, oh, like maybe I don't need a nature journal, but I know that I'll feel better, and my main goal is to nature journal, but I'm just having this lack of motivation or something. So this is something that happens to everybody, so if you've experienced this, you know what it's like. Maybe I need more coffee. Maybe I drink too much coffee. Maybe I'm looking for a more interesting subject. Yeah, I'm just tired. Maybe all the birding has made me just want to bird and not nature journal. Maybe I haven't had enough exercise yet today. Maybe I had too much exercise so far today. Maybe I'd be better off if I was with other nature journalers. Maybe I'd be motivated if I were with a group of muggles. Maybe I'd be more motivated if I weren't filming a video about nature journaling. Maybe I'm getting tired of tropical rainforests. Maybe it's too hard to decide what to nature journal in this rainforest. Maybe it's because everything looks the same. Maybe because it's too cold. I could nature journal that squirrel right there. How about I don't like mammals? Oh well, it ran away anyways. What was it that Marley said to do in this situation when you have a mental block? Oh yeah, he said just to write about whatever you're going through, whatever your mental block is, write about that in your nature journal. Okay, so all I did right now is a little metadata, and I wrote about basically the obstacles that I'm having, the procrastination that I'm having with whipping out my nature journal, and then just a little bit of a description of where I am. Words are really powerful in that way. You can just describe what you're feeling, what you're seeing, what's around you, what you're smelling, and that can be a really good way to break in the page. This is a watercolor I did yesterday, and that probably doesn't help having that on my otherwise blank page. Sometimes having a colorful watercolor or sort of a more in-depth illustration, or having set a precedent with some more pretty page nature journaling, it can be hard to get started the next day. The other thing that could be affecting me is just not being warmed up. I hardly did anything yesterday except for that one landscapito. It was a busy travel day and I was busy with other things. Sometimes if a couple days go by and you don't draw anything, all that you don't need motivation, you don't need inspiration. Those things are fickle, completely undependable things. What you need is just to start getting that movement. Sometimes any excuse, like if I had done some sketching at breakfast, even if it were just of my hand or doodles, even if I had just done doodles on my page, that probably would have made it so much easier for me to get started in nature journaling right now. And this is the part where we have to practice self-awareness, because I could have just rationalized to myself not nature journaling at all on this walk today. Maybe I could just bird, maybe I could just take photos, maybe I don't really feel like it, all of those things. But is that really what I want? I don't think that is really what I want. So anything we can do just to kind of trick ourselves through those stages of procrastination and resistance is going to help. And I think, if I had just sketched first thing in the morning, because that's just what I do when I eat breakfast, I think it would have been way easier for me to start nature journaling right now. Or if you just automatically always pull out your nature journal when you first get to the location, like I've often talked about in the past, I think if you do that, you're gonna be fine. And once your nature journal is out, once you start writing, it's all easy from there. All right, this is awesome. I feel great. I'm so glad that I pushed through that procrastination at the beginning. It's like writer's block. And this is the mental stuff that I've mentioned before, doesn't get easier the more you practice. So even artists or writers who've been working for a really long time, they experience this sort of writer's block thing that I just had. They don't have motivation. That's why you need to just get started. And now that I got started, I'm so glad that I did, because there's gonna be a whole bunch of cool more things for me to explore here. All right, let's go, see what we find. What? Try to nature journal like a kid. If you find something that draws your attention, draw it. And in this case, I found these cool berries and I drew them right here. I am not adding watercolor because even though the sun is out, you might not be able to see this right now, but there's like it's light drizzle falling and it's about 100% humidity. It'll take forever to dry. So I did write down notes. Pyrrole red PR plus QM. It's really, really good if you know the initials of your watercolors, and then you can just take quick notes that are more accurate than writing like, I was gonna write fire truck red or something like that, but it's more accurate and it's faster to use the initials of the watercolors that you're actually gonna use to color that subject. In this case, I noticed some of the important things about this plant. I think it's probably in the Rubiaceae, the coffee family. Opposite leaves, noticing whether leaves are opposite or alternate is super important for plants. And if you can, find a flower. Flowers are the most important. So right there is one flower, 5-part symmetry, super important. Anything about the flowers or the fruit is gonna help with identification. I did take a reference photo in addition to this, and look at that. I've basically filled a page of nature journaling. I've got it started, and now I'm gonna keep exploring. There are tarantulas here. There's really colorful, pretty type of tarantula, and there's also a really cool endemic species of arboreal pit vipers, my favorite. So I'm on the search again with my nature journal. Finally got it out, finally using it, finally got over that mental block. You're not supposed to walk off the trails here, but look at that creek down there. That looks really tempting. Should I try to go down there? Hopefully by now you've seen some of my other videos about nature journaling in wet conditions. Either way, one of my tips is to walk around with your nature journal like this instead of like this. So it's not wet enough where I need to put my journal away as soon as I'm done using it, because that ends up leading to more of a mental block and maybe not pulling out my nature journal again. But it is wet enough where just all I have to do is walk around with it like this instead of like this. It's not that hard. You can also walk around with it like this, as long as it's oriented with less surface area facing up, because there are little drops of water falling. Sometimes big drops of water fall off of a branch or something like that. So by carrying your nature journal like this, you're getting less surface area and less likely to get your paper wet. So I'm taking a big risk by taking out my watercolor palette right now, but I'm using it in a strategic way. Instead of doing like a big landscape with a lot of water, a lot of wet on wet, and just sort of big washes, or multi-layer with a plan to do sort of multi-layer glazing, I'm just going to be using selectively my watercolor. In this case, there's this really cool bromeliad growing there on a vine, and it's hanging out in the middle of the path, which I thought was really cool. And I drew it. Then I drew in the background and kind of lost the bromeliad. So what I did here is I just used color to highlight the vine and the bromeliad and make it stand out. So I'm using watercolor in a strategic way. I have a goal with what the watercolor is trying to achieve, and I have thought about the implications of taking out my watercolor palette and creating a wet spot on my page when I'm in a location that has 100% humidity, and it could be a while before this page dries. It might force me to walk around with my palette open, or my my sketchbook open, and that's always a slightly dangerous thing to be doing in these conditions. Sometimes you might be really interested in something, but you know that it's going to be a big project to try to draw it or nature journal it, such as those huge clumps of epiphytes up in the trees. So remember, one thing you can do is to make a really simple diagram, even with a stick figure kind of approach. So here you can see on my page, I drew a really basic tree, a really basic clump of epiphytes. I think they're ferns, and then myself for scale. All that took about 2 minutes maybe, and at least I got something on the page. It also mixes up aesthetically what you have going on the page and makes it less of the nature diary of an Edwardian lady, where all you do is species profiles or sort of like botanical illustrations. It breaks up the page to have some of these more simplified drawings, and it also helps you capture more of the experience in a more realistic way, because if all you do on your walk through the woods is do a species profile, like a watercolor portrait of, like 3 plants or just 1 plant, that's not really representative of your experience, because there's probably other things that caught your attention, and it's definitely not a representative depiction of that place, because you're just sort of arbitrarily picking some plants, or picking some plants that will make a good portrait. And these are things that we usually do unconsciously with our nature journaling. So don't be too hard on yourself if that is something that you've been doing. But this is just a tip that I think can help a lot, and I know that it's helped me. There's a mosquito on my nose right now. And okay, once I got into my nature journaling flow, now mosquitoes started to attack me. Oh, dang. It's hard when you're nature journaling and filming sometimes, because you don't have hands free for smacking mosquitoes. right, I took out my watercolor again because I wanted to capture the color of this plant, which seems like such a characteristic part of how this plant looks. But you can see here, when I did take it out, I took advantage to use it in a couple other places, but I'm being strategic for the berry, for a little bit of background to give that sort of environmental feel, and then for this characteristic fruit or flower on that plant back there. So I'm being strategic. When I take it out, I'm using it in multiple places, but I'm going light, and I'm also making sure that I use my water brush that puts out the least amount of water possible. So the weather here just got a little bit more drizzly, but as you can see, there's teeny little droplets of water all over the page. And this is usually more of an issue actually with ink, even if it's waterproof ink. As you're writing and the ink hits those droplets, it spreads out. You can see that all of these ink lines are fine because I did them before the rain, but and even this one here, but then the watercolor itself is usually not that badly affected by those teeny little dewdrops. But what happens is you get these little pale spots. So here in that green background, you can see pale spots. That is usually what happens, and that's what happened in my watercolor landscapeito yesterday, and usually it's not that big a deal. But the stronger drizzle could be an indication that it's that point in the day where it's going to start just getting wetter and wetter. I'm really glad that I got an early start and got some pages filled, because there's a chance that pretty soon here it's just going to get so wet and it'll stay wet for the rest of the day. All right, so I have a decision to make here. I can take this trail and start heading back down, or I could just go back down the way that I came. Or I could take this longer trail that wraps around here. It's the longest trail on the preserve, and it looks like it starts with a pretty serious uphill. It will be a little bit risky because if the weather starts getting bad, I lost my umbrella. I got my umbrella taken away at the US Embassy, and when I had my appointment to replace my passport. So I don't have an umbrella, and I have an okay system for keeping everything dry if it starts raining, but I will still get pretty wet, and it's not an ideal system. So I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna risk it and take the longer trail, and hopefully I won't get soaking wet again like yesterday. Wow, check out this awesome ficus. There could be quetzals here anywhere in this canopy. This area has quetzals as one of the most iconic birds, but not very easy to see. Oh, cool, another cool fruiting plant. Wait a second, no, I'm not gonna nature journal that. So I've been creating a sort of collection here of cool plants, fruiting plants. A collection is a classic nature journaling technique, but I like to use this metaphor a lot of the sort of volume slider on your stereo. There's a slider for controlling the volume, and sometimes it's good to turn the volume up and blast it, like when you're having a party or trying to annoy your neighbors. And there's other times when it's good to put it down low, like when you don't want other people to hear the music that you secretly enjoy listening to. So it's the same with a lot of things in nature journaling and in art and in life. And a lot of times we have a default setting and we don't even realize that we are on the default setting when the circumstances might require us to turn the volume up or down. So right now, this type of nature journaling where I stop at every cool plant and try to make a little drawing and fill some pages with it, that's cool for some things. But right now I need to turn the volume up and walk a little bit faster and kind of get further into this reserve. So remember, at the beginning of the day, it was hard for me to stop walking and take out my nature journal. Now it's hard for me to put my nature journal away and pass up some of the cool stuff that I'm seeing and allow myself to walk further, cover more distance, and potentially find some things that I can nature journal that I wouldn't see if I was going at a snail's pace at the entrance. This is a super important concept for nature journalers, because a lot of times what happens when we get into nature journaling, we end up losing our ability to hike, and we find wonder. I hope I didn't just miss the turnoff there. We find wonder in so many things that sometimes it's hard to even get past the parking lot. And you've probably been on a nature journal walk before where as soon as you get out of the car, there's cool stuff there and everybody just starts nature journal. So trying to think about that as a spectrum and as a sort of slider that you can control, and in certain situations, turn it up and turn it down. Oh my god, what is that? All right, I finally made it to this observation point, which would be a great place to do sort of like a more in-depth landscapito with watercolor and everything. That's actually the continental divide right there. Water on that side goes to the Caribbean, water on this side goes to the Pacific. Also, it has a lot of the things that I want in a landscapito. Just look at how great that composition is, a little bit of atmospheric perspective, but look how much it's drizzling right now, and plus this wind, it's gonna be really hard. I could use my, whoa, what's that? Oh my, that looks like a really, oh my god. I just got distracted by a really cool tarantula wasp type, some type of cool wasp, but I don't think I'm gonna be able to do this right now. It's just a little bit too wet. I could use my waterproof paper, but I mean, geez, look at that view. I wonder if it's always just windy and wet here. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this, even with the waterproof paper. I gotta get out of here. It stopped drizzling so hard and I busted out my nature journal again, and I'm also using a technique where I use the map that they gave me when I got here. Definitely take the map, especially at places where you're paying money. This is one of the few things, solid, physical, tangible things you're going to get for that money, and it can be a really good nature journaling aid. So I've already made a plan that I'm going to paste it onto my page, onto my facing page, and I'm drawing right on the map. It can be super easy to draw right on a map and glue it or staple it into your nature journal, and that's just a quick way to add information. Drawing an actual map like this can take a lot of time, and you should definitely do that too, and it's fun. You'll have to do a way more simplified one, and it won't be to scale. But whenever you get the chance to take something like this and just scrapbook it into your nature journal, I highly recommend it. And a map is probably the most valuable of those things you can get. Otherwise, sometimes it could be like a ticket or like a ticket stub or whatever like that, and you can glue those things into your nature journal. But a nice paper map is great. Okay, you're not gonna believe this, but I just saw a wood creeper, a really large wood creeper, which is awesome, a new species for me. And I totally lucked on, there's an army ant swarm going on here. So I can't decide what to do, because this is one of the like best neotropical nature experiences you can have. Oh, here they are, they're coming towards me. You can see so many birds at these swarms, so I don't know if I should nature journal or just bird. These are also the ones that they bite super hard. These things will mess you up. And right there, you can see there's a ruddy wood creeper right there. So what that thing does is it's gonna eat, it doesn't eat the ants, but it's gonna eat the things that these ants scare up, because these ants are mostly insectivores. I mean, they'll eat you if you were small enough, but mostly they eat things that are insects or arthropods, because those are the main small things. Some of those get scared up on the branches, or even little lizards and geckos, and there's all these birds that are specially adapted. Oh, there's the really cool one back there. All these birds are specially adapted to follow these army ant. Oh man, there's a huge swarm. This is awesome. Okay, should I nature journal or should I just bird this? And how am I gonna avoid getting bitten by these things? These ones bite super hard. Oh no, somehow my Pilot Fudoyaku pen is running out of ink. And I don't have an extra one with me. I don't know what happened to it. Look, you can see the ink is like almost empty. If I was wearing any other footwear, I would be totally screwed right now. They will walk a little, usually they'll only walk a little bit up your rubber boots, and then it doesn't smell interesting, and they'll just leave. They'll just go back down. If they do start getting inside, I'm gonna be in big trouble. But if you're wearing any other kind of shoes, even if you're wearing like leather boots or whatever, they smell more interesting, or the texture or something, they'll climb up and they'll totally start biting your legs and your ankle. These things, when they come into your house, you basically just have to move out of your house temporarily. There's nothing you can do about these ants right here. All right, that's what I call opportunistic nature journaling. Something like that comes up, you can't miss that. I mean, that friggin' ant, I just got bit by a bunch of mosquitoes. I didn't get bit by any ants, luckily. These rubber boots make all the difference, because any other footwear, those things will just crawl right up your legs and start biting you really badly. Oh, there's a moth. Hold on one second. All right, well, that was cool. Man, I'm just starting to get kind of hungry. I guess the rain sort of stopped, but it's really important with nature journaling in places like this to just be adaptable. You know, it's cool to have a plan and a schedule. Oh, I see a cool bumblebee. But if something comes up or the weather is good, it's good to be adaptable enough to be able to just take advantage and be opportunistic and nature journal when the things are there and good. This morning I didn't know what to expect, and I had a hard time getting started nature journaling, a major mental block right at the beginning. But once I got into it, it went really well. Saw some cool stuff, especially that ant swarm. Had a good hike, saw a few birds, new bird species for me and all of that. So pretty good experience nature journaling here in Monteverde, the most famous cloud forest in the entire world. Tonight I'm going to be going on a night hike, seeing what kind of reptiles and amphibians I can find, maybe doing some sketchings. It's going to be with an organized group, so a lot harder for sketching, but I'll give it my best, and that will be in another video. Thanks to all my Patreon sponsors and members for making this show possible. You can find out more about how you can become a member and support the mission of using nature journaling to make the world a better place. Check out this link right here for more information and how you can access some of the special benefits of Patreon members. If you can't wait all the way until next week for the next episode of the show, check out this playlist here. Bye. All right, so I know I already ended the video, but I just remembered that the Monteverde, very famous Monteverde cheese factory is here, and look what they have. Don't forget to reward yourself after a hard day of nature journaling. Thanks to all my patrons and members for making the Nature Journal show possible, and for supporting the mission to use nature journaling to save the world's biodiversity and make the world a better place. If you can't wait all the way until next week for the next episode of the show, check out this playlist here. Bye.